Hey guys, welcome to the Cold North podcast. Today I have a very special guest yet again, one of my favorite music video directors, which is Max Moore. He has directed some crazy videos for some of the major bands that I and some of my friends are listening to. Bands like Spiritbox, Stay to Remember, Code Orange, Nothing Nowhere, Under Oath, Code in Cambria, Motionless In White, Vain FM, Knock Loose, just the list just goes on. It's insane. And I can't wait to hear much more about him. And I think a lot of more people should know about him. So without further ado, let's get into this. Glad you're here, man.
Yeah, no, glad to be here. This is super cool. There's not a ton of opportunities for specifically music video directors to talk, but they're talk about the work, but even more specifically like our little niche of music culture and such. So I'm super jazzed, man. I can't wait to dive in.
There's like a niche in a niche some way.
Right, exactly.
Can we just get started with just from the beginning? Like, how did you ever get the interest of doing music videos, or was that the end goal from the beginning, or did you start somewhere else?
Yeah, so I grew up playing music. So first and foremost, like I was into punk and hardcore bands and playing in different indie rock and like punk rock and hardcore all through high school and such. And so always had that, core understanding of music and love for music. And then I decided I was going to go to like an undergrad film program. I live in Kentucky in the U.S. And so there's a small like undergrad film program at Western. It's called WKU, Western Kentucky University. So I went and did that. So I, just kind of just studied film, and it wasn't anything crazy. It's not like an amazing program, or at least it wasn't when I was going there. So it was one of those things where you got out of it what you put in, and I was definitely a kind of overachiever, like student who wanted to every weekend rent gear out from the the gear from the college and go like make music videos and shit. And so at that point, when I was at in that program, I had all these friends who were still in bands, particularly like that one of the bands you talked about, Code Orange.
Mm-hmm.
I was friends with them, and I had this rental equipment that I could take some lights and stuff. And I just had like a shitty DSLR, and I was like, hey, I'm in film school, whatever, let's make a music video.
Oh, great.
So I started kind of just hustling and doing that on the side while I was in school. And then by the time I was ready to graduate, so this is like 2013, which shows you my age and a little bit how long I've been doing this. But by 2013, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go do it full time and just see if I can make it work. And then I was just off to the races. And
so you started out with Code Orange. That's quite a band to start out with.
Yeah, for sure. And they were a smaller band at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my first music videos was for Converge.
Okay.
And
what?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like out the gate, just
okay.
A friend of mine was good friends with them, and I just said, "Hey, can you intro me via email? I want to do."
Yeah. Did you feel like you could deliver at that point in your career?
I think I was just so young and naive that I just said,
yeah,
fuck it. And also that was like 2012. So music videos, especially in hardcore, weren't as a thing as they were now. Like there weren't a million videographers as for like people trying to do music videos. So I kind of got in a little bit before, you know what I mean? It was like this industry a little bit. DSLRs were they were coming around, but like, so I kind of snuck into the industry in some ways and then it ramps back up, and now everybody can be a pro. Everybody can do it legit and have amazing. But yeah, cold emailed Converge, and I did that video for free. I paid for it for myself, and but that's just what you got to do when you don't have any work. And
that's so
for Kentucky. Why would they pay me to do something? So
that is so cool. So was that like, because one of my questions was, did you have like a first big break, or was this like a slow development for you?
Yeah, I mean, the Converge video was nice because people know that band and getting more popular. But I don't want to paint the picture that like I just like got these 2 videos and boom, it's done. Like
No.
the last decade I've spent, even now, you know, I've directed well over 100 music videos.
Yeah.
And been doing it for 10 years. The grind is always there.
Yeah.
Like, I still, you know, have to put in the work and network, and you know, I'm trying to work with bigger artists, and now we're trying to direct more commercials. So that's a whole nother different thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily get any easier. The
No.
stakes get, you know, the money gets bigger and the stakes get higher. But in some ways it feels just like I was a kid again and like still grinding it out. Certainly it's easier because now I have a huge body of work and a reel that can be like, hey, I can point to this and be like, you can hire me because I've done this. And
Yeah.
It's easier. But I've definitely like, I'm the king of cold emails for years. Cold emails.
Okay.
Mailing bands.
Yeah.
Myself out there, like, and you know,
Putting yourself on the map.
Kentucky, so it's not like I'm in LA or New York, those cities where it's like everybody's there. Kentucky's like kind of a random. And I still live in Louisville, Kentucky, so it's, you know, I was always just try to leverage the power of the internet.
That's so nice that you can do that. Like one of the things that I also wanted to hear about was how has things developed from being like a one-man army, I could guess you were in the beginning, to now? Because when you see like the list of people you're working with on video is like really long, like a lot of people. And like maybe 2 questions in this, like how has your like process developed from having those like smaller budgets, being a one-man army, to now having like a whole team behind you and bigger budgets? And you know, how did you progress from that? And was it like you say, you still put in the grind, but there's a lot of experience there, I guess, because you're a lot higher level than me right now. And I like at the beginning you were, you know, being a one-man army, and like it's like what we do, it's trying to make something look as expensive and, you know, big budget as possible with limited to no amount of money.
Totally, and we're still trying to do that. Even if we have a crew, we're just look at it. It's been amazing as possible. But yeah, I mean, I wish there was like a quick, like little, you know, great soundbite that I could put in and be like, hey, this is how I did it. It's really just, it was a slow process.
Yeah.
You know, I grinded for years, just like I'm sure a lot of other folks have, doing it myself. And that is that's not anything to be ashamed of. That's how you learn how to be a filmmaker, is, in my opinion, is like, know how to shoot, know how to like edit and be crafty. And coming from like the DIY, like punk hardcore scene, like doing something yourself was never frowned upon. That was just like my ethos, and still is. Even when I approach a bigger budget music video, I'm still getting in there and being involved. I'm not sitting back like on a couch doing nothing.
No, of course.
But that process was slow. You know, at a certain point, a couple years into doing it, I was getting bigger budgets and, you know, started hiring a few folks here and there to help me. And then eventually I got signed with the production company and worked with them for a few years. And then in end of 2019, 2020, I signed with a production company called Tough Contender in LA. And so getting with them, and they are, you know, I joined a roster of other directors. And so they already have like a production team, and they've really been able to help me grow as a director and, you know, find all the logistical things about a shoot that are difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have the team, and they can, you know, let me have a crazy idea and run with that and do an amazing shoot and facilitate all that. But like all the ins and outs of like, you know, I'm not like a permit guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the sooner that I embraced, hey, I don't know everything about filmmaking, and that's okay. But the thing about it is that the sooner I embrace that filmmaking is a team sport, and that there is stuff I don't know how to do. So I was shooting all myself. Like, you know what? I'm gonna hire somebody who's a better DP than me, and that's, fuck my ego. It's just going to make for a better video. Or I'm going to hire a better producer that has more connections, and get with a team that, you know, so the sooner I just let go of the control and like being like, yeah, I'm not good at those things, but what I am good at is like having a cool idea and facilitating something unique and editing. And so my strengths I've held on to, and then my weaknesses, I've let others come into the team and make better videos and bring everything upward, if that makes sense. So to answer your question, it's been slow, but it's just about learning to embrace teamwork, really.
What I like about that is you get all the experience knowing like what are like the different steps from, contacting a band to a finished product. So you're like, how each step, what needs to be done, what works, what doesn't work. And I think one of the things, like noticing all of your videos, because I just like spend 2 hours a day going through a whole bunch of them, it was like there's always some kind of twist on reality in either like a VFX sense, the Day to Remember video, suddenly death pops up out of a toilet and starts, unintendedly killing people. There's like the video with the Cohen Cambria where they're dropping like their head pieces and it turns like blood splatter, like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. And it's usually like paced around 2/3 into the music video where like that twist happened. So like how did you kind of develop this style of being like a bit, thinking out of the box and being like, incorporating those VFX stuff?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for checking all that stuff out. It means a lot to me.
It was fun.
Especially coming from you all. Like, I love watching you react stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But for me, kind of developing that style really comes from the more traditional approach of getting music videos. So I have a music video rep and that is kind of in junction with the production company I'm with.
Okay.
So the way that normal industry normal way that one would get a music video is like your rep is in between the record label and the production companies, and they represent the directors, and so they'll get the single or whatever, the bid from the label, and then she'll ask, hey Max, do you want to write on this? This is kind of what they're looking for. Here's the budget. Here's the dates. The due date for the treatment is this. And so kind of getting familiar with that process the last few years, maybe like the last 5 to 7 years of doing that. It's not the only way I get music videos, but knowing that I'm competing with my treatment to get the job has like naturally made me think like I can't just submit something boring or like, so even if it's something like pretty standard, I'll think, oh, let me flip it on its head just a little bit, add a little secret sauce of like some weird reality or something's unique that elevate this treatment so I can get the job. And I'm not always competing against other directors. A lot of times a band will just want to work with me and we'll like Evade or Code Orange. Like I have those relationships and they'll come, like I'm not competing with anybody else. But I think going through that process of pitching and going against other directors has always taught me to think of the idea is core and central. And so that's where those little like weird things come in. You know what I mean? To kind of flip it on its head. And then to answer the question about like on the third or later in the video, one of my pet peeves is when I watch a music video is that somebody intercuts all the setups they have, performance setups, in the first 20 seconds.
Yeah.
There's no reason you're not saving anything.
No, exactly.
And like, I've heard you all talk about that in your React videos, knowing about like the pacing and saving, a song is like, tries to have the ebb and flow of like verse to chorus to the big climax and kind of almost like a little mini movie or something. And so
exactly that, because I was like thinking he must know how to play an instrument, because there's certain parts where like, okay, he wouldn't have shown that in the edit if he didn't know that was the thing you would focus on if you were a musician. Like the Knocked Loose video, Mistakes Like Fractures, there's a point where there's like a bass scrape. Like, okay, it's totally in the frame. He does that. There's also, I can't remember the artist, but I think Travis Barker was drumming and he knocks on the door with the kick drum. Yeah. Duck, duck, duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so stuff like that. So when you do those treatments, do you incorporate those kind of beats in that treatment as well? Or is that more of an edit thing?
More of an edit thing, unless it's something like really specific. Like sometimes with the treatments, I try to keep it as visual and not vague, but I don't get super descriptive of like this happened
like timestamps.
Yeah, I do less of that. It's more of just like I organize my treatments in like chronological order. So as they're flipping through the pages, they can see, okay, this happens and this happens. And I really make the pictures, the images in my treatments, the star of the show. Like I just want to be able to show them rather than have them read. Like if that comes back to like I'm competing against other directors. So if my PDF document catches them or in they're reading some other one that looks like shit, you know what I mean? So I tend to keep it a little bit more vague. And then those like editing things, I'm a big director editor. Like editing is my bread and butter. I almost feel more confident in that sometimes than my directing abilities. And so I just kind of like, you're right. I play bass and drums, and having that rhythm and knowing like, oh, that's an awesome bass line. It just helps with this kind of music, I think.
Yeah, and that's also the thing when you do, because you can see that you know like hard music when doing like more pop stuff, or like because you edit that stuff the same way, which is fun. I think also that probably what makes you stick out compared to like other directors in that genre. So you're talking about, let's talk about the rotoscope video, for example. So because that's more of an aesthetic video compared to like a narrative video, where there's that kind of a story, because it's more of one of those where like, oh, this just looks fucking cool. There's not necessarily any like deeper meaning behind it. It just looks fucking dope. And there's like these iterations of ideas, like, okay, you have the glass, she's standing on it, she's smearing stuff over it, but you also had that globe sun thing where you got the Google, wherever it is from. And I was thinking about, how do you portray that in a treatment, when it's not necessarily a story, or doesn't have like this, it's more like a visual thing. And how do you work? Because what I'm thinking you must do is like, okay, this is my idea. It's got to be some kind of glass and this and this. And do you just like iterate ideas during the treatment or during the shooting or during the edit? How's that composed?
So for that particular video, I had a call with Spiritbox before, like a Zoom call. And that was helpful to get the vibe. Like I think Courtney said, she was like, I like kind of like a Billie Eilish meets like Nine Inch Nails. Inspo. Yes. So like, but not in like a corny way. So I kind of took that and ran with it. And to me, honestly, like my favorite music videos are ones that are more of a vibe. Like I love some type of loose story or saying something, but I just like, I'm a musician. I love watching. I want to see the artist do their thing. That's why I'm here as a viewer, and I don't give a fuck about an actor. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously, there's times where you need to tell a story, and that's great. But what it boils down to, my favorite kind of music videos to watch and to make are those kind like the Spiritbox, where it's like, let's not overthink it. It's a music video. This looks cool. It fits. I'm taking some loose interpretations of the lyrics and try to just create a world and a vibe, something that is memorable and cool. And like with the whole thing, rotoscoping, I was trying to do like, she smears it on, but it's like around her.
Oh, yeah. All right. Now I get it. I didn't think about that.
Really, I don't know if anybody got that, but that was kind of the inspo.
Yeah, so those that don't know, rotoscoping is where you like cut out a person in a frame, or like masking or whatever. Okay, that's so cool. That makes sense now. When I first saw that video, I was thinking, oh, this is only green screen. And then I saw the behind the scenes and I was like, what? It was actually there. It's in camera. Like, whoa. And I think you wrote me about that also that's like one of your go-to things is trying to do as much as possible in camera compared to like VFX.
Totally. I mean, like green screen stuff is awesome and a great tool, but I was never super confident in VFX. Like growing up, and it was, I can do it, and I've done a lot of it over the years just because
you have
a lot of money in music videos. But anytime I can do something practically, and when the client's on set and I can look at the image and be like, that looks fucking great.
Yeah.
No guessing, or like, it just makes everybody's life easier when everyone's looking at the monitor and being like, this looks awesome, we're hyped, and everybody leaves set feeling great, so that edit is less of a surprise. You know what I mean?
I definitely know what you mean.
for the Spiritbox video, that was my first time shooting on those LED screens, and it was awesome. It was definitely like a learning curve a little bit to like some of the technical stuff about like moire and how close can we get the camera to it before you start seeing the pixels.
Oh, what is moire? What does that mean?
Moire is like when you're shooting like a TV, digital TV, or like one of those screens, it like the wavy. You can
Yeah.
like this weird digital artifact.
Oh, so it's like the hertz or the shutter speed you need to.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a super technical guy, so
Okay.
I don't know. It just looks like shit. You'll see it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like digital banding.
Okay.
Instead of like what it would do is like we're trying to make this look photoreal, like her in the chorus. If you saw digital banding behind her, it's like, all right, that's a screen. You know what I mean? So
yeah. What I think really sold it was that you incorporated as different props in front of it, so you get, because one of the things I feel about having those kind of green screen videos is the image gets really flat really fast because there's nothing in the foreground, and that's because it's just so hard to do, and then you have to go and do almost all these kind of 3D tracking things, and then the workload just gets incrementally larger. And it was like one of those first things I did was cutting back on those things, because I couldn't spend that much time on each video doing weeks of that work. So I totally get, if you could do like you do, I would totally go for that. But you also do a lot of really old school prop things, like the first Vane FM video we saw on our YouTube channel. That was a good good example of that, where you had puppets, and like the scissor is real that you try and we thought that was green screen as well. It was like mind blown that you actually built it.
The scissors was a mix of real.
Oh, it was a mix. Okay.
To be honest, like the real one, we couldn't get it. It was this rig that we had. We couldn't get it to come down fast enough, and it was just kind of awkward. But for some of the close-ups with Anthony the singer, we used the real one, just coming up out of the foreground. It was easier to push it up than it was to come down. But I just like literally in this office, like grabbed some scissors, took a photo of them, and just put them in After Effects.
That's cool. You do a lot. You do a lot of that with incorporating like the neck deep video where you drew all the frames out and then did it in post. It's so cool of making like something feel analog, even though you're putting it in the computer.
Thank you, man. Yeah, the neck deep video, that one particular is one that I'm really proud of, because one thing I've learned was being with Tough on this roster of directors and going up against all these other directors, whether it's for a commercial or other music videos, is trying to figure out my voice as a director. And, the executive producer at Tough has talked to me about this, and it's, I'm like, voice, what does that mean?
Yeah. I just do cool stuff.
I like it. Just making cool things. I want to get paid for it. That's awesome. That's it. But really trying to, over the last few years, really think about like, what is it unique about me? What are some experiences I have, or some visual tendencies that are unique to my skill set and speak to me as a person? And so I've always been like into art, and like in school, I thought I was going to be an art major at one point. So I love drawing and doodling and animation and things like that. And so that video really felt like, I'm just going to say fuck it and have fun with the edit and make it crazy and try these different things. And so to me, that music video feels totally like Max. Like that's specific to me in what my sensibilities and who I am as a person in the context of like the band. You know what I mean? I'm still like making it for their record.
You're making a pop punk video with bright, a bit oversaturated colors, but you also got those edits in it with the twist from reality. With when you're doing the drawings, but you also got the twist with him not breaking that screen at the end, even though you were thinking he was going to do it. And also speaking about bands being musicians, not actors, I think they are a band that can act. And it feels like you're also like nurturing that part of them because it feels natural to them, right?
Exactly. And I love music videos when you can involve the band as much as possible rather than just like a cutaway. Like I even like a hardcore band, like a band like Code Orange or a Vane or whatever. I tried to take pop sensibilities, even if it looks super dark and crazy. I try to be like, how can we make Jamie from Code Orange? I'm going to treat this like a pop video. I'm going to make star and entertaining and let's follow it. So I'm trying to take some of those sensibilities of working with pop punk bands or, female artists or anybody who else is more pop sensibilities and put that in, even if it's like a hardcore band or whatever. And I just love trying to involve the band as much as possible because at the end of the day, that's why people are watching the video. You know what I mean? It's because they like the band.
Of course.
Or whatever. So, but yeah, thank you I appreciate that.
The Code Orange video that recently came out, it had like kind of a 90s hip hop aesthetic vibe to it, with the changing of the scenes and so forth. Is that like, we're speaking of trends? Because what I was thinking when I saw a lot of videos, like, okay, using like 8 to 16 millimeter format, some DVR, a lot of cuts, and sometimes pictures and stuff like that, and the whole aesthetic also that Nick did video was kind of 90s also, like a TV show almost from the 90s. That feels like that's the thing now, like 90s, the look is a trend. But do you agree? Or is there any other trends you see coming now or coming up?
Yeah, 90s is huge. I think early 2000s is also huge. That was kind of like early 2000s, 90s was major inspiration for the Code Orange video. Like we shot it digitally, but we put halation and a lot of grain on it, trying to make it look like film. And the DP, he wanted to shoot like the scene with big tungsten lights. So we didn't use, I don't know how much that translated to the look, but we kind of like, our goal with that video, for example, the wide shot of them in the city, like a very 90s thing to do is like when you look at some of the 90s close-ups from a performance, they don't necessarily match the lighting of the wide. So the wide looks awesome. And then when you go to a close-up, it's clear as day that they just walked in a huge softbox right here.
Yeah.
It's almost beauty light. And so we were embracing that, like, hey, when we push into these close-ups, they don't need to match the wide lighting. Let's just make it look pretty and soft. And that's a very 90s thing to do, especially back then when you're shooting on film and you needed more light. But yeah, 90s is huge. And also, I'm a millennial, so like...
Yeah, that makes sense.
The 90s. That's my happy place.
Yeah.
Drawn to that. And nostalgia is a very powerful thing. People love nostalgia, and I'm a sucker for it too. So I'm always trying to find inspiration for things that feel a bit vintage in a new way. It's not just copying. It's like, how can we... Like the Code Orange video feels like a 2023 video, but it has these, to me at least, early 2000s, 90s vibes.
Do you like, some people, they have a lot of inspiration, maybe horror genre or the anime genre, and I can tell also like, wasn't the Code Orange video with the almost Vampire Blade-ish vibe that was going on? It's like also like early Zero's movies. Is like, do you have some kind of theme or thing like that's your go-to inspiration, or is it more just like whatever pops up?
It really just depends on the artist, but I will say like a lot of people expect me to be like this horror guru or something, just because I've done a lot of like blood and
intense stuff.
Yeah. But I'm a regular guy. Like I love horror. I'm not like a obsessive horror person. You know what I mean? I don't have like the Friday the 13th like poster hanging on my wall, kind of a deal. But I like all kinds of movies. I love so movies are a huge inspiration. But really, when I sit down to write for a music video, I used to like try to have like this bank of library of things to get inspired by, and be like, oh, if something pops up, I'll use this idea, and I'll tailor it a bit.
Yeah, so you got like pre ideas.
That doesn't work for me anymore. I feel like anytime I've ever done that, I never got the job.
Oh,
so to me, I always like to start from scratch and like listen to the song, hear their references, look at like almost treat it like I'm extension of the record. What does the album art look like? What do the promo photos look like? What kind of like, I've been directing commercials, so I'm treating it just like a marketing campaign, right? It's like, how can we further tell their story, further make them look like badasses, further make people want to buy their record? And I've really tried to think of that and put myself into what does a fan want to see. And anytime I've spent more time thinking about it, and getting in the band's or artist's world, I've come out with better treatments and more success of getting the job. And so I know that's not really a good answer, but
that's a great answer, because it feels like it's totally full circle back to pleasing the guy who started out doing videos and wanted to see cool stuff, and pleasing me as a fan of music as well, because I feel satisfied is probably the best word to describe when I see your videos. As yeah, it's a great video, great song, liked it. It's never like something disappointed. So Max, thank you so much for hanging out with me past 30 minutes. It was a pleasure. I'm so happy that you took the time off your busy schedule, and I will see you guys in another video. And thank you guys, and thank you, Max, so much.
Thank you, man. This is awesome.